I'm Eric Anderson, VP of Sage Services at Rand Group, and I'm thrilled to be joined by Aaron Harris, the Chief Technology Officer for Sage. Aaron's one of the most respected voices in the Sage community and a cloud computing pioneer who developed the world's first multi-tenant cloud architecture for on-demand financial applications. He's also a leading voice and trusted authority in artificial intelligence, particularly when it comes to financial applications. And that's going to be the focus of our time together today. We're truly honored to have him joining us for Sage Momentum. Welcome, Aaron. Great to see you again.
Thanks for having me, and it's an honor to be here.
So let's dive right in. These are some of the topics we'll cover. While we let you take a look at those topics, I just want to comment on the Sage Future Conference that was at the end of April in San Francisco. I thought it might have been one of the best Sage conferences I've ever been to, and I've been to dozens. So I love the location, I love the venue. And Aaron, your keynotes were a highlight as usual. It was great to be a part of that. And I'm really glad that you and I had a chance to chat for a few minutes at the closing event, which was a spectacular closing evening, I thought.
Yeah, it was very fortuitous to run into you.
Yeah. So I'm bringing up the conference because there was a lot of discussion around AI and getting over the trust hurdle with AI, particularly when we're talking about financials that need to be 100% accurate. So first on our list of topics, let me advance the slide here, is trust and governance. And these three questions are all interrelated. So I'm thinking we dive in and talk to us about trustworthy AI, how you're building that into Sage products, what are the concerns you're hearing from customers, and how do you balance moving quickly while keeping the guardrails on?
Yeah, so there's so many dimensions to trust when it comes to AI. I'll sort of narrow it down to the trust that's needed to use it to do the work that's done by humans today, with this sort of core principle that you won't use the AI if you don't trust it, right? So you've got to trust it to work, you've got to trust it to be safe, right? You've got to trust that it's going to produce predictable results. And we break this down into three categories or three areas of focus. So the first of those is confidence, right? It's this view that results delivered by AI should be verifiable. You should be able to challenge them. You should be sort of equipped with tools to allow you to go in and see the data that was used to produce the answer, or to go deeper than perhaps the AI went. But there's this general theme around confidence that's really, really important. And I think a lot of it comes down to completely rethinking the way you design software. I think one of the things you heard me say at the conference was that, for the whole history of business software, the objective of the user interface was productivity. It's like, how efficient can I empower users to be with this software? And that's just not the case anymore. The objective now has to be confidence. It's how confident am I that the answers are correct? How confident am I that I'm making decisions based on accurate and complete data, which is a completely different objective to building the UI. So the second big area is control, which I think is a real natural segue from that. And fundamentally, what we're getting at here is humans need to feel like they're in control of the process, right? If there's a consequential decision, that a human is making it. If AI is performing work, it's doing that work under the authority of a human, right? Who has authorized the AI to do that work. And so there's this basic commitment to human control that I think has to exist. And then the last area is accountability. And what I kind of like to joke here is we're never going to trust AI to sign an audit report, right? There's always going to be a human accountable for the outcome, for the output. And so as the human who's accountable for the outcome, what do you need, right, to feel like you can accept that accountability? Well, you need audit trails, right? You need to know, what is the path that AI took to arrive at the answer? Did AI do the work autonomously, or did a human prompt them to do it? In that audit trail, can we look back and see the prompts, right, and the sequence of tools and skills that were used to arrive at the answer? So there's this broad governance question that needs to be there to give the human the comfort that they can actually accept the accountability, because as much as we would love to hold the AI accountable, we can't, right? We can ask it to do the work, but at the end of the day, I'm signing the audit report or I'm signing the financial statements.
Yeah, you can't tell your CEO check with AI on that question.
Yeah. I don't know why that happened. Go ask Claude.
Yeah, great. So as far as moving fast while maintaining the guardrails, I want to make sure we touch on that a little bit because it feels like there is a race going on with AI, and everyone's trying to get it into their products as quickly as possible. I think you obviously touched on that with the audit trails and making sure you do have those guardrails. But how do you balance those two those two big concerns, moving quick but guardrails?
Yeah, it's a real balancing act right now. And to make matters worse, the AI tools that we have available as software developers are driving massive acceleration in our ability to move fast, right? So that's not just an urgency to move fast. We've got the tools now to move very, very fast. But what we hear time and time again from customers, and this is borne out through my personal interactions, but also through the surveys that we do, like customers want us to get it right. And the old approach to developing software where you write up a long requirements document, spend a couple months developing the capability, QA it, and then release it with a bunch of fully developed training material. It's really, really hard to do that with AI. Fundamentally, what you're doing with AI is you're creating a system that is designed to replicate high confidence human decision making, and the only way to do that is to design it in partnership with your customers. So the approach actually becomes, let's rapidly get to something that gives a customer a sense of what it is that we're building and what the capabilities are. Let's keep that group small, and let's progressively over time add capability or change capability based on feedback, add more customers to the mix until we eventually get to a point where we're confident across a number of dimensions, right? So we're confident that we've built something that works the way customers want it to work. We're confident that it works in a safe and reliable and predictable and repeatable way. So it's not just does it work, but does it work predictably and reliably? And have we in the process displayed a commitment to our principles for building safe AI, including making sure that there's full capabilities for verifying results. There's all of the sort of the systemic capabilities built in for governance and auditing and whatnot. So it's not big blobs of work that are shipped once. It's really fast incremental work that's done in much closer partnership with the customer.
That makes sense. I mean, what I think I hear you saying is there's going to be a lot of beta programs. We're gonna get solutions out there. We're gonna let it fail to some extent and figure out where the issues are. Let the customers tell us what's wrong with this or what's not making sense, and we'll fix it. But we can't just build this giant piece of software over a year and then push it out. We need to move a little bit more iteratively, a little bit more quicker. Put it out there, correct it. It's interesting.
And you've got to be totally transparent in the process. You've got to be credible. You've got to be believable, right? You've got to maintain trust with customers throughout that whole journey.
Makes sense. So let's get on to Agentic AI. So what does Agentic AI actually look like for a Sage end user currently and maybe in the future?
Yeah. So I often tell people here at Sage that at the end of the day, what our customers want is automation. And so, when we built our AI team, it's been about 8 years ago now. We set out 3 broad areas of automation, if you will, that we wanted to focus on. So the first was continuous accounting, right? This is all of the tasks of collecting and accounting for business activity. The second one is continuous assurance, right? That's essentially applying technology to create confidence in the reliability and the accuracy of that data that's collected in continuous accounting. We pair those 2 up. And then continuous insights is automating, all the work that goes into finding insights in that data. So, whether it's forecasting, whether it's, doing predictions, whether it's identifying trends in the business that aren't obvious, these are all capabilities that are well suited for AI. And we've built capabilities across that spectrum. What agentic AI does is it elevates that work such that now the human can let go a little bit from, a period of time where these tasks are done with AI, but they're done in a very, very strictly controlled workflow. They're done under the close guidance of a user. And this one's important. They're still done in kind of today's UI, right? It's kind of today's processes. The processes haven't really evolved to reflect AI's capabilities. With agentic AI, we evolve from task-based automation to full workflow automation. We evolve the UI to reflect that now we have ways for humans to interact with the AI, right? Whether that's conversational UI, but it also means dynamically generated, user experience, right? Where that conversation with an agent who's automating tasks, that agent is able to display information, generate graphs or dashboards or reports on the fly based on the needs of the conversation. And that's the point at which I think we make that transition from simply doing, today's work faster to, actually doing the work differently, delegating that work to technology and starting to take on the work that we wish we had more time to do in the first place.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it sounds like the vision is a much more interactive approach, with the AI agent.
Yeah, we talk about humans evolving from being doers to reviewers, right? So
Mhm.
the human is no longer in the system to do all the data entry and the review, right? The human is in there to review what has happened, to discover the insights that AI, may be unfolding for them. And it enables us to completely rethink the way workflow happens in the business.
Yep. So I think we covered the role of human oversight. We talked about audit trails and reviewers. What are the AI agents performing well today, and what are the limits that you're seeing as you build these agents?
So I think agents do well with any task where you can sort of set out rules for a predictable outcome. And we want to give agents some flexibility in how they use tools and skills and how they interact with other agents to get that work done. But fundamentally, if you can define a set of business rules that determine an outcome, given the right systems, right, given the right tools, given the right training, given the right human oversight, these are good tasks for AI. I think if you really distill that to its core, one of the most powerful applications for AI agents is writing software code, right? And part of the reason why it's so good is because software code has so many non-negotiable rules, right?
Mhm.
If you misplace a semicolon, it just simply won't compile and nothing will work, right? That's kind of the rawest form of this, but you can sort of expand that and say, well, essentially, if we can define the rules for something, we can apply AI to that, and we can enforce the rules through the process, right? So that the outcome is still high quality. The next question, obviously, then is, well, what is AI not good at? And what we really don't want to empower AI in doing is making those judgment decisions. Automating tasks that require a broader understanding of not only business rules but business values or business mission. Having a deep understanding of the strategy of the business. So whenever we start to depart from sort of rules-based work, we get into the land where we want AI to equip the human to do that work better, but we want to be very, very careful about actually delegating that work to AI.
Mhm. And that probably leads into the next question as far as what are the limits or what doesn't it do well. I really enjoyed your keynote at Sage Future, and you discussed Arthur, your accounting AI agent, and how it made quite a few errors. I can't remember the percentage, maybe 60% it got right or something like that, which is not great in the accounting finance world. Is accounting just particularly difficult for AI to get right, or maybe you could just comment on that?
Well, so yeah, there's a couple dimensions here, and just for the audience, I developed using OpenClaw, which is an open source agent framework. I spun up an agent I named Arthur to keep track of my expenses in building AI software, and I purposefully didn't give Arthur any accounting software to use. Right, I wanted Arthur to do the accounting himself without the tools. And so what it really comes down to isn't so much, could Arthur see a transaction and categorize it correctly? It was really more that I didn't give Arthur the tools to do the work in a controlled way, right? So, he would use a great category in one transaction, but on the next time he saw the same transaction, he'd use a different category, which, like, you could argue might be okay, but we can't tolerate that inconsistency. There were cases where, Arthur would put numeric values into, fields where we were storing dates and vice versa, right? So we'd sort of lose track of how the system that he himself designed was working. He had a hard time keeping track more broadly of what work he had done and what work he hadn't done, what he had seen and what he hadn't seen. So, one of the, I think, more comedic moments in my keynote was Arthur confessing to me that he lost an invoice. um, this is a very broad statement, but the biggest challenge we have with AI agents, not just for accounting, but across the board, is the notion of context or short-term memory. They have exceptional knowledge and understanding of the world. They can look at notes and they can keep notes, but they have no short-term memory. Very, very limited short-term memory. And so they just don't have the consistency that you need to do accounting work in a predictable, controlled way. And the whole punchline of that story was accounting software is not going away because we've got brilliant agents that know how to categorize a transaction or read an invoice. And in fact, if we're really going to trust this AI to do work, we need to equip them with accounting solutions, right, that not only make sure there's a good result, but that provide the governance, right, and everything that we expect for a world where we're letting go of something mission critical like reconciling invoices and purchase orders, right? That's pretty important. I'm not going to let go of that unless I trust the tool that the AI is using.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, in my own experience with AI, I feel like it's very good at telling me what it thinks it knows, but when it comes to things it doesn't know or could be wrong, it's not very forthcoming. How did you actually get Arthur to admit that he'd lost the invoice? I'm trying to remember that part of the story.
I had a performance review with Arthur. So and what I was trying to do is I was trying to get Arthur to say, will you please let me use some accounting software, right? Arthur, in the spirit of a performance review, what do you think you did well? And, what could you do better next time? And that's when it, like, unprompted, admitted to me that it lost an invoice. So yeah, I mean, it sort of gets back to your point that AI, these large language models are designed to respond to a prompt and to not respond, right? And so if you ask a large language model to perform a task or to answer a question, they are going to, even if they don't know the answer or they don't know how to perform the task. And this is true of even the most powerful large language models today. So the approach to actually harnessing all this power in a way that is productive, but productive in a way where we're still confident, is to build systems around them, give them tools, create the governance, do all the things that we would do for humans who are doing work, but more so, right? More audit trails with more information than we would have for humans, as an example.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that performance review.
Oh, it's such a good story. So talking about broader AI strategy, where do you see the biggest near-term AI opportunity for the mid-market?
Well, this is where I go back to basics. Businesses still want automation.
Yeah.
The accounting team is under significant pressure to do their, not only do their work more efficiently and with higher productivity, but they're also being asked to take on more jobs than they've had to do in the past. CFOs are telling us that they're being asked to operate much more strategically than they have with the past. And so, I often kind of remind people that if a CFO has an opportunity to evaluate, an acquisition or a new product launch, or maybe a risky transaction, they can't say, I'm not going to close the books this month because I don't have time, because I want to spend that time looking at this more strategic thing. That stuff's non-negotiable. So the short-term opportunity, I think, continues to be, we've got to continue working on automation to save more and more time. Now, having said that, we are working on, okay, well, if you have more time and you are able to work on more strategic activities, how do we equip you to be more successful with those activities? And so this is where, AI that can get into to modeling, really sophisticated forecasting, AI that can help you with understanding risk or defining value when it comes to transactions. That's the future that we really want to get to. And yeah, we're working on it, but customers are still telling us, please help me with this non-negotiable stuff, because I've just got to get that automated so I can work on that more valuable stuff. And we're going to equip you with AI that helps you to be more successful in that more valuable stuff.
Yep. So on that topic, close automation and the Copilot that's inside of Intacct, and I believe inside of Sage 100 now, can you talk a little bit about the AI that's in Intacct versus Sage 100 and what the roadmap looks like?
Yeah, so Sage Intacct is our flagship product. It's the fastest growing part of the Sage business, and now it's the largest part of Sage business. And so, unsurprisingly, it is where most AI capabilities are launched first. So we're quite far along with Sage Intacct. We've got AI automation built into the product for things like processing bills, matching those bills to purchase orders, categorizing transactions, reconciling accounts, now automating close activities, managing budget versus actual support for budget owners as part of the monthly process. We've built an agent now called the Finance Intelligence Agent that is purpose built for CFOs to give them a more effective way to analyze information and to sort of drill into the parts of their data that they want to get into. And of course, there's an agent within Intacct, and also in Sage 100 we call the Search Help Agent, which fundamentally is there to help you be more productive when you're using the product. If you don't know how to do something, or you want to learn how to do something new, it's there for that. Sage Intacct is where all this sort of lands first, and Sage 100 and other products who our customers dearly love. And of course, we still invest in these products. They get these after they're road tested, if you will, by Intacct and a couple of our other products. So, we've done some, really nice work in Sage 100 to prepare for this. So sort of, to build out the infrastructure to enable the safe use of AI agents. So for example, we've been working on audit trails that are more complete and suitable for AI work. But I think what I'll also point out with Sage 100 is that there's a big market, there's a big ecosystem of solutions, including AI solutions, that can drive greater automation through the product. And so we've got a twofold strategy at Sage. On the one hand, we are very, very committed to building AI solutions that sit within the core finance and accounting world. But we're also committed to building open platforms for Intacct and Sage 100, where our partners, whether that's partners like the Rand Group, but also marketplace partners, software developers who can come in and integrate their products. And we've developed now AI programs to equip our partners to build AI solutions on the platform. And so, the way I see this evolving, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing some of these use cases. The way I see this evolving is customers who have really complex and unique workflow that they need to automate. Now having the ability to apply AI to automate that problem, and being supported in that effort by by the ecosystem around the products. And we're working really, really hard to enable that ecosystem to be successful delivering those custom AI solutions.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I know we have hundreds of Sage 100 clients at Rand Group, and they're going to love that message. Like you mentioned, there are so many third-party vendors out there in the marketplace doing all sorts of really, really neat stuff. And I have noticed a lot of those vendors focusing on AI more. So between what's inside of Sage 100 and maybe some external third-party add-ons, we're gonna be moving pretty quick, it sounds like.
That's
What's
right.
what's the biggest misconception customers have about AI that you find yourself correcting?
Well, let me talk sort of principle and philosophy here. And maybe it's less of a misconception and more of a, I want to change the way people think. If you see the headlines out there, it's very easy to sort of get depressed and be anxious about the impact AI is having on white collar jobs, whether that's software developers or accountants. But I actually think that's really missing the opportunity that we have with AI. So I don't know if you sat through my keynote with the partners at the conference, but I made this point that if AI makes software developers 10 times more productive, we shouldn't expect 90% fewer software developers. We should expect 10 times more software, right? There are
Right.
so many problems to solve with software where we just historically haven't had the resources. There are so many things we can do, with this extra productivity, to create custom solutions for very exotic problems, right? And my challenge to the industry is to focus on growth, right? And not focus as much on reducing costs. Now with accounting, I think it's a little different because we have a big shortage of trained accountants. Accountants exist to create. I'm really, really simplifying, but it represents my view of the world. Accountants exist to create trust, and with AI, and with a shortage of accountants, I think not only do we have the ability to sort of deliver the full set of work that we want accountants to do, right? But we're going to value accountants more because they're bringing trust into this environment where we are automating more and more of the work, right? We have this
Mhm.
really simple axiom at Sage that we need to invest equal amounts into automation as we do into confidence, right? In other words, the more we automate, the more we've got to create confidence that when you hand something over to automation, it's working. And the same thing applies to trust. The same thing applies to the accounting profession. So, I really like this quote: "The best way to predict the future is to create it." And I like to believe that we're the creators of that future. And so, I'm going to do my part and continue to stump for this notion that let's do more, right?
Yeah, just
Let's
flip it
solve
upside
more
down.
problems. Let's create more things. Let's be more valuable. And yeah, we are gonna be more productive. We are gonna be more efficient. We're probably going to be more profitable. Those things are great. But what are the wicked problems we could be solving, right? Now that we
Yeah.
understand we have so much more capability to solve them.
Yeah, I love that. You just kind of flip the conversation from cutting costs to increasing revenue, right? That's
Exactly.
great. Okay, well, we're running out of time. I have a million more questions for you, Aaron, but I suspect you've got other things to do. And our mutual customers will probably appreciate it if I let you get back to adding more value to Sage Intacct and Sage 100. For the audience, please stick around for part 3 of our keynote, where I chat with Kristina Conner, our Intacct Services Director, and Sue Dunn, our Sage 100 Sales Director. In some of the hands-on sessions, we will be demoing AI features. I know Chris will be focusing on Intacct AI and some of the current features that are in there. So, Aaron, thanks again for your time. Really appreciate the insight. It's great to have you participate.
Thanks for having me, Eric. It's been a great conversation.
I'm excited to be here with Kristina Conner, our Intacct Services Director, and Sue Dunn, our Sage 100 Sales Director. I'm going to do quick intros just in the interest of time, as we do have a lot to cover today. Chris is a CPA and Intacct expert with over a decade of Intacct experience, including consulting, leading, and managing Intacct teams. And Sue is a true Sage 100 guru. She's been working with Sage 100 and other Sage products for decades as both a consultant and a sales manager. And so let's talk about the agenda a little bit. What are we excited about? What does each product do particularly well? What does the right client look like? And maybe what does a bad fit look like? And then to wrap up, I'll talk a little bit just about the rest of the conference agenda. So Sue, let's go ahead and start with you. What features or improvements to Sage 100 are you hearing great things about right now?
So I think some of the main things that have been rolled out in the last couple of years that we're getting a lot of positive feedback on are things like consolidated sales orders all on one invoice, which really improves and enhances the invoice presentation. They've added multiple areas with very detailed audit trails, which has been something that folks have been asking for years. So those have been well received, both of those. And then, of course, in the latest version, which will be talked about in detail in the latest release session, but there's a couple things that were added. Enhanced paperless office emailing, where they can group a number of invoices together and be emailed together. And then also the global search feature. These are huge improvements, and they came from ideas that the clients have submitted, and Sage is listening, so those are well received.
Yeah, I love seeing those ideas that get submitted rolled into real software. That's always fun. Chris, basically the same question. Anything you're hearing about that's kind of a game changer for our Intacct clients?
Yeah, actually, one of the biggest game changers we're hearing from clients today is the impact of using AI and automation in the system, both in the accounts payable automation and also the close automation. A lot of companies were still heavily in the manual process of downloading invoices and keying in data and consolidating everything outside in Excel. So what clients are telling us now is that the AI-driven automation has dramatically reduced the amount of time being spent on getting things into the system, and more time can be spent analyzing that data.
That's really, really cool technology. And you're going to focus a little bit on that in one of your sessions, at least the close automation and some of the AI pieces, right?
I will be, yes.
Excellent. So stay tuned for that. All right, let's talk about strengths. What can each of these products do particularly well? Sue, let's dive in and start with Sage 100.
So as is noted on the slide, Sage 100 has an extremely good inventory module. It has tons of features and can handle, multiple warehouses, all sorts of different pricing models. The costing is great. Unit of measure conversions are great. Sage has recently enhanced the lot and serial tracking and capabilities within those, and even the sizes of the fields have been expanded, again, by requests from clients over the years. So extremely strong. They have a Sage 100's production management and inventory replenishment planning are fabulous modules. Those were rewritten recently, and Sage is working very hard on constantly improving those big enhancements. Great strengths. The bill of materials module is very good. It handles multiple levels of explosions and, scrap and yield, very strong for those types of modules for a mid-market product. I think the on-premise versus hybrid model where it can be hosted, it has some benefits. There's a lot of companies that still really want to have something that's on-premise, so it's got that option, or they can have it hosted and be able to browse out to it and sort of have the feel that it's a cloud-based product, but still would be hosted. And we've got a ton of add-ons that are available. So because it's been out for decades, and even though it's totally been rewritten in the last couple of decades, all of the modules have the capability to have different enhancements added. We can customize it. The scanning is very robust, and all the capabilities within scanning, and that's constantly improving. Sales tax automation is available and can be built in. Makes everybody's life easier if they don't have to mess around with sales tax. And the enhancements just are very, very rich and available.
Yeah, I think of Sage 100 as kind of a workhorse. Around
It is.
2001, I was the controller for a small company. We were using QuickBooks. We did an evaluation. We looked at Great Plains, Navision, and Sage 100, which was called Mass 90 back then. Some of you might remember. And to us, it was obvious that Mass 90 was going to be the best fit for us. It's interesting because, you know, obviously a native cloud solution like Intacct, that's something that a lot of people are interested in, but there's some nice advantages to a database that you can get your hands on, right? And say, oh, I want to back up this company folder. I know where it is. It's on the server. I can make a backup. So, Chris, let's talk about Sage Intacct. Where does it shine?
Sure. So as you mentioned, Sage is a true cloud operation, native cloud environment. It has the multi-entity, multi-currency consolidation process that is built right in. And some of the consolidation, doesn't even have to, it's just done within the reporting. So it's real-time consolidation, which is really nice for clients to see. A lot of times in some consolidated systems, you have to wait until month end before you can see that consolidation. Whereas in Sage Intacct, you can actually just go look at it anytime, look at where the consolidation is at, look at all your entities across one screen or dashboard, and be able to have that visibility into a multi-entity environment without having to log in and log out of different systems. It also has the dimensional reporting, which really lets you get away from that segment reporting. It lets you cross over from entities with dimensions. It allows for the project accounting, which is really key for a lot of industries like nonprofit or construction. Those dimensions can then be used across all entities. And then, of course, the continuous innovation and improvements that Sage is making. Every quarter, there is a new release. There is constantly enhancements coming out, and there's nothing for the user to have to do. They just hit your system each quarter. You have the notes and videos to be able to review them, and you're getting the latest and greatest of whatever they're producing out there.
Yeah, that's nice. Don't really have to worry about upgrades. And one thing that's not on this list is just the API framework. So it's when I think about Sage 100 and how easy it is to get at the data because you have the database right there and you've got tools like data file, display, and maintenance. Well, on the Intacct side, you've got kind of the API framework, which is extremely beneficial. And I am not nowhere close to a developer, but with tools like AI, Claude, for instance, to extract data using the API or even push data in is just getting a lot simpler for us non-developers to work with. So let's talk about what prospects aren't a great fit. Sue, do you want to lead off with Sage 100?
Sure. Whenever I think about over the years, the different situations where Sage 100 was looked at, I'm going to say that probably process manufacturing is not a great fit. That's one aspect because the intricacies for the decimal precision and the recipes that people might need to come up with are pretty different from the standard discrete manufacturing and or even custom made to order manufacturing. Doesn't have usually those call outs for the recipe style requirements. Now, we do have some companies that do that, but it's not the greatest fit. If they need quality control piggybacked on there, it doesn't have a built-in quality control, and there's really not a good quality control product that connects to it. So that's, I think, the main group that would not be a great fit for Sage 100.
Makes sense. Chris, same question?
Yeah, and I think what we're seeing here with the RAND group is that industries that are inventory heavy or in manufacturing, deep manufacturing execution, need strong inventory management. Those ones typically aren't a best fit for Intacct. So we don't really try to fit a square peg in a round hole and try and make them fit. That might be a better fit for Sage 100. Also, if it is a very small industry or a very small business, a single entity, a lot of times Sage might just be a little bit of an overkill for that.
Right. Yeah, we do get clients that are on Sage 100 that are curious about Sage Intacct, and the first question is usually, are you heavy distribution or manufacturing? And if the answer is yes, and it's like, well, Intacct's probably not the best fit for you. One other thing I was just thinking about, Sue, was Sage Intacct does revenue recognition extremely well. It's good for professional services and SaaS type models. Sage 100, I'm trying to think if there's a good rev rec solution, or would that be one that might not be a great fit?
Well, that's an interesting question. That depends. So there is a suite of modules that has some capabilities that can, manage the revenue recognition in certain ways. It just depends on what. Again, I think there is an enhancement for modifying that somewhat. So, for example, if you need a cash basis, because it's inherently an accrual-based system, there is a cash basis option that can be added, and there's also deferred revenue. That's an enhancement. Those are enhancements, though. They're not built in.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of Sage 100. It's been around so long. It's legacy. So there are quite a few enhancements. So
right.
I put Sue on the spot, and she delivered like a pro. So.
Thank you.
So let's talk about a recent win that kind of shows your product at its best, Sue. And Sue, we'll start with Sage 100 again.
I think the one that comes to mind in general is a client where they had a unique situation where they bought used equipment, very specific type of equipment, and then they needed to catalog it and bring it in at certain prices, and then also maybe change the pricing and have add-ons for it. They would sometimes disassemble it and sell pieces and components of it. And then they also had a website that their sales reps and customers could look at where it showed these listings. And keep in mind, this was like one-offs because they'd buy this piece of equipment and do what they needed to do with it, and then wanted to have it available and have it presented on their website so that their sales reps and their customers could actually see these and, pick and choose, do they have one of those on hand right now, or do they have parts for the one I have on hand? But anyways, by the time we finished the implementation, Sage 100 was number one, managing their costs exactly like they wanted to from start to finish, bringing it in and managing that part of it. And then with an integration for their website mapping, that was managed as well. So they were able to push the information out of the inventory and have it up on their website so their sales reps could see the information and their customers could browse out and see the information. And just recently, they also added scanning, which huge time saver for everybody and more accuracy. So, they are delighted with the way that it turned out.
It's a great story. Chris, how about on the Intacct side?
We recently implemented a large medical company that had multiple entities and multiple locations. They also needed to bring in various patient care data from PCC and be able to report on a lot of the KPI metrics that went across all various locations. So by using the dimensions, statistical accounts, and then using Sage's EMR Connect, we're able to bring all that in and set up some advanced reporting and dashboards for them, not only for the location managers, but then also for the C-suite to see everything across the board. So it was a really nice feeling to be able to see them get all their data in one place and be able to view everything and all their KPIs. So it's not just financial data that Sage is strong in, but also if you do have those KPIs or non-financial data that you want to bring in, it's very doable and able to check that. And they were also able to automate their expenses and their bank feeds, and they were able to speed up their month-end close by a significant amount of time by being able to bring everything in and automate it. So it's a really nice implementation.
Yeah, that's great. We're seeing more and more companies use that statistical data, right? And the EMR Connect can bring in some of those. Some of that information, like Chris mentioned, like, number of patients or what's the other obvious one that I just forgot?
Patient days. Patient days.
Patient days. Yep. So thanks, Chris. So finally, what does the right client look like? And Sue, we'll kick off with Sage 100 again.
So I think the right client is any company that's got distribution and requires inventory, purchasing, managing that whole process. Sage 100 does a great job. If you've got job costing, there's a job cost module that can be added on. There's a suite for adding on custom made to order. There's the discrete manufacturing. So from a standpoint of what's the relative size. I mean, we have some clients that are doing just core accounting where it's one user, and then we've got one client where they've got 8 or 9 companies embedded into the system that they're running, and they have 100 users. So it's scalable. So growing companies can definitely work with it, and because it's got all these different capabilities, each company that's in there can be doing their own thing. So.
Yeah, for sure. I remember early on when I was consulting with Sage 100, once I understood the power of custom office, it was like my mind was just blown. Like I can do anything I want with these screens, add a field anywhere. And now with the addition of scripting over the last, I guess it's been out for a while now, 5 to 10 years, there's just all sorts of light coding that you can do within Sage 100. That's pretty cool.
Well, and just
Chris?
to
Yeah.
comment, I'll just comment a little bit more about the custom office. For anybody who's not familiar with that, what that gives the capabilities, and we even have clients who do it themselves, but you can add fields just about anywhere in the system and have them flow through the whole system. You can change the panels, you can change the colors, you can change the text size, various things that you can do that really make it very specific to whatever your needs are. You can add information fields with drop-down lists and have the data collected so that, when you're doing your reporting, it's very specialized for exactly what you need to track. So custom office is great.
Yeah, it's amazing. Chris, we got about a minute for you to talk about Intacct and what the right client looks like.
Sure. So for Sage Intacct, that's going to be an ideal client. It's going to be more of a mid-sized company that's got multiple entities, like we've been talking about, multiple locations, or it's in a hyper growth mode and they want to be able to scale really quickly. So the good thing about Sage is that you set it up one time and you can continue to add entities because it does use master data that will go across all the different entities. Companies that are value the real-time data and visibility into that data and have that KPI-driven leadership, they also want to focus more on the analysis of the data rather than the input of the data. Those are all key drivers where we think Intacct would really be a great fit for those. We do serve all verticals. Sometimes the nonprofits are a little bit smaller because those have more of a complex reporting need that Sage services really well, like you mentioned, the RevRec situation or association billing, things like that. But also family offices, investment companies, healthcare, construction. We can handle all those verticals, and Intacct's a great fit for all of those companies.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Obviously, we work with both of these solutions. If you're curious or want to talk with us more, please reach out. If you're on Sage 100 and want to talk about Sage Intacct, we have those conversations all the time, but we love Sage 100. So welcome to the rest of the conference. I'll just flash through some of the sessions here on the Intacct side. We've got what's new and roadmaps. We've got some sponsors, some ISV vendors that you might be interested in. And then on the 100 side, similar type of content, the future, the 2026 release roadmap, tips and tricks, things like that. So thank you so much to Sue and Chris. This has been great chatting with you, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.